So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have Mr. Simon Fox. Now, Simon's been working with me for the last couple of months. He's just finished the first phase of the program we work on called The Blueprint, and he's now in the next phase. And I wanted to bring Simon on to talk about his experience because, like everyone I speak to week in, week out, when we first spoke, wasn't in the best spot, a few things going on, recognised he wanted to make some changes, was struggling to kind of implement that. I think Simon will use the phrase, I think the tail was wagging the dog, or that way. But I want Simon to explain himself. But by all accounts, now in a really good spot, still more work to do, but I think in an exciting, empowered place. But I'd rather you hear from the horse's mouth. So before we kick off, Simon, do you want to just introduce yourself, a bit about you, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. Simon, I'm 47, married, father of a 7-year-old. I teach. I'm currently in an assistant principal role at a small specialist setting in Dorset. Um, it's funny, you kind of lurch along, don't you? You kind of lumber along, and things just do what they do. You go to work, you come home, you do all those kind of things. We're an interesting household, neurodiverse household. With autism diagnosis from my wife, and my little boy has some pretty clear traits. Um, and I suppose things came to a head, for want of a better expression, when my wife recognised the fact that I was turning into a grumpy old man. I would kind of come home after a big day, I'd just veg out, I'd fall asleep on the sofa, just a real kind of malaise, lethargy that I couldn't really put a finger on, and it was difficult to shift. I've been training for a good amount of time. I've got history of 3 shoulder dislocations and 2 surgeries, so I've always been pretty clear that I needed to invest in getting the shoulder right and doing the best that I can to manage that. Arthritis in the shoulder 4 or 5 years ago at the last surgery, so it was a purpose. But everything just felt like a grind. Getting out of bed was a grind. Getting to the gym was a grind. Training was a grind. And it took me being called out, particularly for the things at home, falling asleep on the sofa, the grump, the malaise, to think that, you know what, I need to figure this out. I need to kind of understand what's happening here. And it happened at the time that, yeah, how it works, social media, things pop up. And I became aware of the fact that it some of the things that I was experiencing fitted with the idea of low testosterone.
Yeah.
Initially, that was a really easy win, finger prick test, just see where we're at. And the results came back in at the just at the sort of upper end of low. But I decided to follow the thread, and at the same time, I realised that what I probably needed was a bit of a steer, a bit of a nudge in the right direction. I'd followed you on LinkedIn for a good while, and I always liked what I saw, but it was this kind of it was a tipping point. Was I prepared to bury myself in the moniker of grumpy old man? Is that where I wanted to be at 47? And it was absolutely not. So at that point, as I saw it, I had 2 options, and one of them was looking at tea, one of them was looking at working with a coach, and actually I rounded off to the point that what I thought I needed to do was both. That what I
Mhm.
needed to do was to draw a line under grumpy old man and sort of be completely invested in trying to get to a point where things were better. And yeah, that's where we're at. And it's really bizarre. It's bizarre how things have shifted. And I think, early on in the process, we had the sort of the early shift was around the things that I was doing with you. And then as things have progressed and testosterone levels have leveled out, it's just like it's like living in a different world. It's really good. It's really good, and it is like we said it a while back, didn't we? I remember saying to you that I always had good intentions, but intentions don't do anything for me. And I remember that following out with your mum's quote and
Yes.
that the piece that you did around intention. It doesn't mean anything unless there's action. And the more we got into it, the more I became aware of the barriers that I created for myself, the sort of the self-limiting barriers that were almost, it was easy to find a reason why I couldn't, because it was hard to get up. All of those things kind of compound themselves into this situation that none of us really want to be in. And then, yeah, it was like I remember looking at the phone and thinking, "Oh, cold showers, really? Do I have to?" And it's just it's a thing. I love it. I look forward to it. It's such a pivotal part of my day and me being ready, and it's great. And then the tea kicked in, and I feel lighter and I feel brighter, and I'm training well. And it's amazing what you can do when you've got the right amount of testosterone in your body and the right system supporting you. It's just like
And I
it's
think
bonkers.
something you said there at the start, this, ultimately don't want to settle for being, your words, like a grumpy old man, right? And I think a lot of guys can end up in a place which is kind of a bit insidious where, like, a little bit older. Well, I was saying I had a gent on a couple of weeks back who was like late 30s. He's like, "Oh man, I'm getting old now." I was like, "No, you're not. You're really
Yeah,
not."
no,
But it's almost it's just accepting kind of mediocrity, malaise, a bit shit, and oh, this is what it's like when you get old. And it really doesn't have to be. And for you, there was like a two-pronged part. One part very much was you had an imbalance in your testosterone, so that needed to be addressed. But I think the other bit, which you recognise as well, is that's great and that needs to happen. But there's also some habits, behaviours, limiting beliefs, and how I'm thinking about just life in general that needs addressing too. And of hammering that with a two-pronged approach. And there's other gents in the process when we go through where we'll do exactly what you're talking about and all the habits, and they definitely feel better. And they're like, I still feel like I'm fucking pushing the boulder up really. And I'm like, right, go and get some bloods done. Because I'm on TRT. I've been on TRT for the last 9 years, right? For very simple reasons you're describing. Um, and then you go, oh, it's low. You do that. It's like, oh, back in the room. And so, but I think,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
we want the habits and behaviors, a bit like the GLP weight loss drugs. It's just, it's kind of, well, it's a bit different, but it's kind of the same thing in terms of that can be a massive help and adjunct to help people who are considerably overweight lose weight, right? But
Right,
what
yeah.
we want is a suite of good habits, behaviors, and a mindset to support that lifestyle underneath that. And with low testosterone, it's not a million miles off. I mean, this is a clinical imbalance with your hormones, which you need to
Right,
address.
yeah, yeah.
But equally, you can do that and still eat shit, not train, and all the rest of it. Do you see what I mean? And so it's putting both of those pieces together, but also then thinking about things in the right way because, when you're in the mindset of I'm just grumping out, it's all shit, that can cloud everything else. Whereas if we start to
Perpetuates,
address
doesn't it?
that, yeah, exactly, that's it.
And I think that was like for me yeah, I don't know. It's an odd one to kind of the TRT is a catalyst to change. It isn't the change. That was and that was so if we consider it to be that catalyst, having that made this whole process just fall into place. And that's the bit that I think that's the bit that makes me really happy. I in terms of the things I put into my body, I've always been pretty risk averse. I didn't dabble in drugs at uni. I didn't. A lot of my mates did. I didn't. I drank quite a bit, but I don't really do that now because I choose not to. So for me, that kind of commitment to doing this was a big deal for me to make the decision that was where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. But as I said, I'm a 47-year-old father of a 7-year-old. In 3 years' time, all being well, I'm going to be a 50-year-old father of a 10-year-old, and I want to be chasing him around, and I want to be present, and I want to be the best dad I can be. And that's about an investment in me now. That's about being in the best place that I can be to give myself every opportunity to be able to do that. And like, why wouldn't you? Why would you not make that commitment? I see a lot of guys at the gym that I use, and there's a lot of excuses and there's a lot of reasons why. Oh, that's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Just suck it up, buttercup. Either get on with it or just stop moaning about it. Because you're moaning about it is like, this is my space. I come here for me. So just button it. Like, please
Yeah.
take take grumpy old man somewhere else. Or, or,
Yeah,
or the other one is, oh, I wish I could do what you're doing. Well, you
yeah,
can.
you
You
can.
tell me why
Yeah.
you can't. You tell me
Well,
why you can't do it.
it's that
Sorry, I'm
mindset,
echoing.
I think, of, it's just that almost this accepting of, okay, well, I've got old or this has happened, therefore it's okay and normal to feel shit or be shit. And I'm not judging someone for the life that they've got, the issues that they've had presented to them. But equally, like, if you're not feeling great, you are feeling a bit like you're dragging yourself through treacle. That isn't normal and it can be addressed, right? But I think sometimes you can just, and it's insidious. It's not like you wake up and go, I want to feel shit, but it's just like it'll just creep up and all of a sudden that becomes the normal. But then at some point you go, hold up, do I want this to be normal? You know, that there's a thing I talk about a lot, which is, you're I hear a lot, which is I'm not depressed, but oh, it's not like I'm about to get divorced. It's like, well, that's the bar for your relationship, is it? Not divorced or not depressed. And again, not in a judgmental way, but like often we can almost allow that. And you also, I think, well, life's too short for that, right? And I think that's what you got to the point of. It's like, your missus called you out when you're just a grumpy old man now, and I'm like, fuck, that's not what I want. That's not what I want to identify as. Of course, as we get older, certain things become harder, right? There are issues, but, like, you can get the most out of yourself no matter what age you are, and I think if you're doing that, that feels great, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's another one of those. It's kind of funny being in the gym when you're just kind of getting on with it. Folks start chatting as they do, and somehow you get to the "how old are you" question, and I tell them I'm 47, and they, it's an absolute joy, mate. You're like, yeah, right, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
cool,
but for your ego, your self-esteem, that's brilliant, isn't it, right? But there was a point not too long ago where you weren't feeling like that, right? And that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what you want. You want, and it's not for external validation, but it feels nice to know that actually, yeah, look at me and look at what I'm doing. What
Yeah,
then would you say has been your key learnings and takeaways having come through this process so far, right? And you know where you were, um, as you sit today.
do you know what? I think for me, like, and it came up in one of the coaching calls, didn't it? This moment of when I started, it was very much tail wagging the dog, and now the dog's wagging the tail. I'd been through processes where I was looking at what I was eating. I was trying to be intentional about that. I was training in the way that I was supposed to do, but that was very much managing the symptom. It was almost starting at the wrong end, and the right end is getting the headspace there, putting the systems in place, adding layers, and recognizing that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Something is better than nothing. And we talked about it yesterday. I woke up. I had one of the body weight sessions planned out. I got up at the normal time, got my electrolytes in, had a cup of coffee, creatine, and thought, do you know what? I'm not feeling it. And actually being okay with not feeling that, not looking for, I just don't want to do it today. I'm going to go for a walk instead. So I went out, walked from the house. I got 10,000 steps in before I started work. And it's like, but this is good. This is okay. I went in this morning and I trained brilliantly. I'm like
Mhm.
super session, really happy, hitting some good numbers. Like, and actually objectively looking at that, that was a hard session. It was a hard session that I wouldn't have been able to have done today if I'd done the body weight session yesterday. That little bit of rest came in, and it's that, it's that, like, it doesn't matter if this doesn't happen, but being present enough, sort of looking into it and seeing it as more than it is.
I think it's having so we all, I believe, want to have standards and structure for ourselves of how we take care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and there's a suite of things to do around that, right? Behaviors. Uh,
Yeah,
but it's also having I guess consciousness and intentionality to understand that, like, you can for yourself make a decision not to do something, and if it's conscious and understood, not an excuse like you're talking about, what we talked about before, and you go, no, no, and I know I'm going to do X, Y, and Z tomorrow. That's a different place to operate from because you're making a conscious choice for you. It doesn't mean you're a lazy piece of shit. It means you decided to do something else, and that's totally okay. Sometimes that happens because it's a conscious choice. Other times it's like life has given me the finger, and it's impacting my ability to do certain things. It doesn't mean you're crap, but then if you've got the mindset, well, what can I do instead here? What is possible? I think that's where you feel more empowered, and it isn't the tail wagging the dog, right? Because you are in charge. I think
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
more
yeah,
place to be. Now, we've used exercises 'cause it's an easy one to understand and talk about here, and I reckon it should be fundamental for everyone anyway. But this can apply anywhere with anything, And so it's looking at, well, what can I do given my circumstances? And like that's where you can align intentions with action because it's like, well, I'm intended to intending to do some exercise or to move, but like sometimes we can't, right? So how can we adapt that appropriately? Because I think if your life's full of intentions and nothing's happening, you know that you're full of shit, right? No, it doesn't matter
yeah,
if anyone
yeah,
else sees it. It's like, and that doesn't feel great, right? And so I think it's aligning those pieces. Go, okay, well, I know and I'm conscious of my behavior and I can trust myself as a grown up to make these decisions. I think the problem is where you were and a lot of guys were at the start, uh, or when they're not feeling like that, is that they're kind of aware they need to do some things and there are intentions around it, but because life, the universe, and everything is sort of conspiring against them, or they can't see a way out of it, there's just all intention without any action. So it's been able to draw the thread and pull the piece on that, right?
I think that sometimes it's that we know we need to do something, but there are too many somethings we need to do. So
Yes.
unless somebody gets hold of it for you and says, right, do these first, then do these. And that was what I liked about the way that the blueprint worked out. Like these seemingly small and insignificant things that week on week become this pattern of behavior that is like that's changed things for me. Like it really has. And like the food thing now, it's just I've dropped back to I took a hit on calories down to 1700 again from 1900, and I've kind of bounced between the two. So if I can hit 1700, I do. If I drift back towards 1900, I'm still in a deficit, and I'm all right with that. And it's okay because it's this kind of shift. It's just a shift that I'm not controlled by it. I'm eating amazing food that I'm enjoying. I'm just taking a little bit more responsibility of it and being a little bit more thoughtful about it. And like, it's easy.
That's the key thing, right? And so, like, it's not about being obsessive, tracking calories, anything like that, but being more intentional around what goes in your mouth, how you move your body, how you think, how you show up, how you manage your time. Like, that I think creates a richer, happier, more content life, right? It's when
Yeah.
it's all passing you by, you've got no control over these things, you're not feeling great within it. That's where the grumpy old man surfaces because you don't have control or autonomy. And I think where people feel most unhappy is where, I guess, where it feels like there's a perceived lack of agency, but also where they kind of know they should be able to have agency, and but nothing's happening. That's where you feel crap, and that's where you get this horrible situation where, like, outwardly looking, everything kind of looks all right, um, but like you don't feel good. But it's because there's lots of areas underneath that you're kind of letting yourself down on, but you kind of know, well, actually, I can do better than this, but I'm not. Does that make sense? Whereas where you sit today, Simon, you're in control of most of that. Does some of it fall over? Of course it does, because no one's fucking perfect. We're not
But
robots.
it's all right
Like, you've got more intentionality around how you approach that stuff.
because you expect to drop some plates. You can't spin
Yeah,
them all,
totally.
and sometimes a plate's going to break, and that's okay. You don't, it's not about being perfect. It's about being good enough, and it's about being consistently good enough. Because being consistently good enough then becomes about being sort of outstanding, if you like.
Well, I think being consistently good enough actually sets you apart from most people. I mean, perhaps I work in an echo chamber because of the people that I talk to, right? But I think a lot of men, I imagine women as well, have this kind of like all or nothing sort of mindset, and so it's like I'm going to do all of it or not, and I'm going to suddenly sort myself and I'm not. The issue is that it creates stasis or even a slow decline backwards because you never actually make any form of momentum. If we just chill out a little bit, like put yourself a little bit of slack, show yourself what you can achieve, and do that consistently, imperfectly, you'll get where you want. The only way you don't get where you want is if you stop. But if you've got this super high expectations of how everything ought to be perfect, you try and meet it and it fails, and you just keep bouncing back between those states, you never actually make any forward momentum on yourself, right?
Yeah, it's like the perfectly imperfect bags of carrots at the supermarket. They're still
Yeah,
carrots.
exactly. So let's say someone's listening to this and they were in a place that you were in, a few months back. Um, Perhaps they're on the fence in terms of doing something like this, even with it's to work with me or making a change. Um, what would you say to someone like that? Going like, is it worth spending money on myself, investing in myself to make these kind of changes? Because probably you can just do it all yourself, right?
Well, no, you can't, because if you could do it yourself, you'd be doing it yourself. I think for me, like financially, this was at the business end of what I could manage, so that sharpens the focus. Um, but you know what? Figure out what your why is. That for me, that was a shift for me. Figure out what your why is, and for me, my why is my boy, and that changed everything. Even when things weren't going well, knowing that the grind of doing things because I needed to do them, getting to the gym and getting that work done, making it about making him my why was the reason. Figure out what your why is, and then it's easy. And don't kid yourself. If you haven't done it yet, you're not going to. Right? What do you want? Where do you want to be? If you're really committed, make the investment with someone. Make the investment in yourself somewhere. Get somebody to help you out. There's no point convincing yourself AI will do it for you because AI doesn't feel like you feel. It doesn't feel like you can't have conversations with it like we're having. Like it's there. It's there if you want it, but you've got to decide how much you want it.
Yeah, and well, look, I would totally agree, Simon, because I've got skin in the game, right? But irrespective, what you've said is totally true, and I think there's so many people, men, women, that like we just said, go, oh, it's all right, really, and I'll do it on the never, never. I'm going to do it next week when it's calmer. I'm going to do it, and you kind of create this trap for yourself where saying you can do it and you are actually going to do it. But then if you were to look at the evidence of that and go, well, hold up, what about the last 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months? You
Yeah,
go, oh, maybe that's not true. There's a gent who signed up in the Blueprint just now, actually, and he'd followed me. He'd seen a client, a really good friend of his, who we worked at many years ago. I think he's followed me for 6 years, and he's eventually saw a posting on.
get
It's
an
never going to
injunction
get
for that.
easier. He's never actually going to sort it out. I actually need to fucking just get on with myself. I need help. And so, like, maybe that's taken him 6 years to get there, which is fair enough. But I think you don't need to wait 6 years. And whether it's to work with me or not, doesn't matter. I think life is far too short to
Yeah,
waddle along in a puddle of mediocrity, right? And I think you recognise that you've done it, and look where we are now. And it hasn't been me doing the work; it's you getting after it, talking about it, being open, and doing it. And the results speak for themselves. And so I think if
yeah,
anyone
yeah.
is listening in that spot, you can very much change, but I think if something's not working, you need to look at the situation differently. And I guess the power of coaching is it allows you to give you that external perspective, right?
Yeah, I think so. Do I want Torben to remember me as a grumpy old man or that guy that he had lots of fun with? It's a no-brainer.
Well, look, on that note, Simon, it's been a pleasure. I'll let you catch your train so we don't. I think you're a legend, and I'm excited about what we continue to work on because you're still in the process, and it's far. If anyone is watching or listening and they're interested in having a chat with me about how I can help, drop me a note in the comments or find me a DM. Otherwise, I will see you all next week. Cheers.